Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Are you ready to completely rethink your afternoon cup of tea?
I am.
Well, get ready, because today we are going to dive into some research that suggests that brewing tea can actually help remove heavy metals from your drinking water.
Wow.
Yeah, you heard right.
Interesting.
Our source material today is an article titled, Brewing Tea Removes Heavy Metals, and I'm already fascinated.
Me too.
Did you ever think that your daily cup of tea could be working as like a mini water filter?
It's a pretty wild finding, isn't it? The science behind it all comes down to something called adsorption. You can think of it like this. There are these tiny little hooks on the surface of tea leaves, and then as you brew your tea, those hooks grab onto heavy metal ions, the stuff we really don't want in our water, and they basically pull them out of the water.
So it's like the tea leaves are acting like tiny little magnets for these harmful metals.
Exactly. And researchers at Northwestern University decided to put this to the test. Their study, published in ACS Food Science and Technology, a leading scientific journal, explored how different types of tea, brewing methods, and even the tea bag materials affected the removal of heavy metals.
Hold on, tea bag material.
Yes,
So the type of bag that you use to brew your tea actually makes a difference.
it really does. They found that cellulose-based tea bags were the most effective. Cellulose has a larger surface area compared to materials like nylon or cotton, which means more of those tiny hooks for the metal ions to latch onto.
That's incredible. It's amazing how science can like uncover these hidden benefits in everyday things. I mean, who would have thought that the type of tea bag could impact the purity of your drink?
Right. It's a great example of how even the smallest details can play a huge role in this. And here's something else that might be relevant to all you tea lovers out there. They found that a typical 3 to 5 minute brew can remove about 15% of lead from the water.
Wait, 15%? Just from a regular cup of tea? That's a pretty significant amount, especially when you consider like how many cups you might drink in a week or a month or a year.
Exactly. And they didn't just test one type of tea. They experimented with black tea, green tea, even herbal teas. Interestingly, they found that while finely ground teas like those used in loose leaf performed slightly better due to their larger surface area, the type of tea itself wasn't as crucial as some of the other factors, like how long you let it steep.
So longer steeping equals more heavy metal removal. That's good to know. I'm already thinking about changing up my tea routine a little bit.
Yeah, small adjustments can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Now this research was focused on lead, but it makes you wonder about what other heavy metals could be like hiding out in our water.
That's a really good point, and it makes this whole discovery about tea even more intriguing. Like, if just brewing tea can remove lead, what other everyday things might have these hidden metal grabbing powers?
It's a fascinating question, and one that researchers are probably exploring as we speak. I mean, there are countless natural materials out there that we interact with every single day, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if some of them have very similar properties. After all, nature is full of surprises, right?
This is making me look at everything in my kitchen in a whole new way. Could there really be other common ingredients or like household items that are effective at filtering out heavy metals?
We'll have to wait for more research to know for sure. But this study definitely opens up a world of possibilities. Think about the potential implications, especially for communities that lack access to clean drinking water. This knowledge could be incredibly valuable in developing some really simple, sustainable solutions.
It's amazing how we started with the simple cup of tea, and now we're talking about potential global solutions to water contamination. This is what I love about diving into these research papers. You never know where they're going to lead.
It all starts with curiosity. And who knows, maybe this conversation will inspire one of our listeners to make the next big breakthrough in water purification.
Speaking of our listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Have you ever stopped to consider the hidden potential of everyday items? Do you have any special tea rituals that might be maximizing these metal removing benefits? Maybe you're a long steeper or you swear by a particular type of tea. Share your insights with us.
And while we're very excited about the potential of tea to reduce heavy metals in our water, it's important to remember that this isn't a replacement for proper water filtration systems. This research is more about adding another layer of understanding to the benefits of tea drinking and opening our minds to the power of natural solutions.
Right, we're not suggesting that you go throw out your Brita filter just yet, but it's definitely an interesting takeaway to consider. While we're on the topic of heavy metals, I think it's worth taking a moment to talk about why they're such a big concern in the first place.
Absolutely. Heavy metal exposure, especially over a long period of time, can lead to a range of health problems, It's not something to take lightly.
So, given that they're pretty widespread in our environment, what are some things that people can do to minimize their exposure?
Well, the first step is awareness. Familiarize yourself with some of the common sources of heavy metals, which can include things like old paint, certain types of fish, and even some cosmetics.
Wow, that's a lot to keep in mind. It can feel a little overwhelming.
It can be, but there are a lot of resources available to help you identify potential risks. The Environmental Protection Agency, for instance, has a lot of information on their website about heavy metals and how to reduce your exposure.
That's good to know. I'll definitely have to check that out. What about preventative measures? Are there things we can do in our daily lives to kind of reduce our exposure?
Yeah, one of the most impactful things you can do is choose products that are labeled as low in heavy metals. Pay attention to labels and make informed choices about the things that you're buying and consuming.
So it's about being a conscious consumer and supporting companies that prioritize environmental responsibility.
Exactly. Every choice we make has an impact.
Well said. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the surprising discovery about tea's ability to remove heavy metals to the broader issue of environmental contamination. It's been a really fascinating deep dive.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's always more to learn and explore.
Which brings us to a final thought-provoking question for you to ponder. Knowing that tea can do this, what other everyday activities or substances might have hidden abilities to protect us from heavy metals?
That's that's a really great question to think about. It really changes your perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If something as simple as like a cup of tea can play a role in reducing our exposure to heavy metals, imagine what other discoveries are out there just waiting to be made.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really
It's
is.
like we're surrounded by all these mysteries.
The natural world is full of wonders, and I have no doubt that there are many more secrets out there just waiting to be uncovered. This research just goes to show that sometimes the answers to our biggest challenges might be hiding in the most unexpected places.
Well, that's a perfect note to end on: a little mystery, a touch of inspiration, and a whole lot to ponder over our next cup of tea. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time, stay curious.